The other issue, of course, in Middle East today or West Asia is Yemen. And over there, you seem to have see a similar deadlock between what the West would like in terms of a regime change, having Saleh go peacefully, but he seems to have dug his heels in, and it doesn't seem to be panning out.
Well, you see, he has better cards in his hand. And the best card that Saleh has in his hand is that Yemen neighbors Saudi Arabia. And the last thing the Saudis want is any kind of permanent demonstration that a leader can be kicked out by popular force. They were able to make a deal with the Europeans and the Americans to crush the rebellion in Bahrain, which has now disappeared from the news, even though human rights violations in Bahrain continue. So on the one side, the Saudis do not want a demonstration effect of a leader removed by popular struggles, which is why Saleh is able to continue to negotiate. The Gulf Coordinating Committee team came to Sana'a. They sat down at a signing ceremony where Saleh was going to sign away a pact for his removal, and at the very last minute he decided not to ink the document, and the Gulf Coordinating Committee had to leave. Well, the reason he could get away with all that again is that the Saudis do not want to see a forcible remover. What they want to see is some kind of mediated transition to remove the tension in Yemen. And Abdullah Saleh has not been the leader of Yemen for so long, without knowing how to play all sides against the middle and to continue to be in control. And he is really playing a masterful hand in Yemen, a hand that, of course, was not delivered to Gaddafi because Libya is not a neighbor of Saudi Arabia.
Obviously, the tactic or the strategies in Libya and Yemen are quite different depending on the geopolitics of the situation. And clearly the Western interests coincide over there with Saudi Arabia, trying to keep the Gulf states and the Gulf monarchies together. But interestingly enough, the one possibility that is looming large over Yemen is that you will actually have a failed Yemen state if this continues for long.
Well, Yemen has had an up and down history. It was only reunited within this generation. There's been, very different political forces in existence there. But you see, Saleh, I've neglected to mention, had a second card in his pocket. Not only is Yemen have proximity to Saudi Arabia and therefore there should be no demonstration effect of a leader removed by popular uprising, but Saleh has very cleverly utilized the war on terror to his advantage. Something that Gaddafi also tried to do, which is to try to paint the rebellion in Benghazi as Al-Qaeda-ish. Well, Abdullah Saleh has no need to present his opposition as Al-Qaeda-ish because the United States has also been paranoid about the growth of Al-Qaeda in the Arabian Peninsula. So even if Abdullah Saleh does decide to leave, the security apparatus in Yemen is going to be perfectly protected, and so too the military. And it will be protected largely because it is, almost become an organ of the United States war on terror. There was a superb WikiLeaks cable which showed how Saleh was pleading with the Americans that, look, you can bomb anybody in my opposition or Al-Qaeda, just allow us to say that we did the killing and you didn't, so that we can maintain some semblance of sovereignty and dignity. So the section of statecraft that Saleh is able to mobilize is that he says, look, I am the only one, and if not just me, then my regime is the only instrument able to contain Al-Qaeda in the Arabian Peninsula. And that is the second thing that is going to enable Yemen to remain together, held by firmly the security apparatus.
Unless it breaks up under continuous pressure of demonstrations.
Will Yemen break, do you think?
Well, the security apparatus may splinter, may split, may fracture under continuous pressure and alienation of the people, right?
Well, that could be. I mean, that is very likely to be the case. But again, they are very much like the Egyptian military. They are receiving bursaries from the United States. They are receiving arms from the United States. There is an incredible attempt to, as it were, bribe the Yemeni security apparatus into unity, not with Saleh, but with the regime and with the war aims or the war on terror aims of the United States. So I don't actually feel like the Yemeni security apparatus is going to split anytime soon. In Egypt, it was slightly different. The security apparatus didn't split. What did split was the military and its allegiance to either Mubarak or the protesters. But the security apparatus remained united, and it had to transfer its allegiance from Mubarak to Tantawi. And that was accommodated very cleverly. But in Yemen, I don't think actually that the security apparatus, well lubricated by US dollars, is going to have a split.
Coming back to the issue of Obama's speech regarding Arab Spring, do you think it is more a maneuver, or do you think there is any serious intent with respect to democratic urges in the West Asian and Arab region?
Well, I feel that Obama's speech was very much about Israel and Palestine. The rest of it was window dressing. Right after the speech, he met Benjamin Netanyahu. He went and spoke at the Israeli lobby, the AIPAC meeting in Washington, and Netanyahu spoke after him at the AIPAC meeting. And here is what I think is going on as far as Israel and the United States is concerned. Israel is scared on two grounds. One, that in the Arab Spring has had an effect on the Palestinian leadership. So Hamas and Fatah within the PLO have had some kind of, a fusion, at least of political view. They will remain, of course, separate, but they've decided to come together. Fatah is not, that is, Hamas has not joined the PLO, the negotiating body with the Israelis, but yet they are now in close tie with Fatah. So that's one dynamic which is a direct consequence of the Arab Spring. The second dynamic is that you may have seen the people crossing over from Syria and even from Lebanon and the West Bank into Israel on Nakba Day, where they attempted to break through the barrier and indeed cross the border very bravely through minefields. They conducted a non-violent march across the border, trying to keep alive an important plank of the Palestinian struggle, which is the right of refugees to return. So this emergence of a non-violent struggle among Palestinians, re-emergence really, because the first Intifada was also non-violent, this re-emergence of the non-violent struggle is the second thing that's scaring the Israelis. The third thing that's scaring them is this united Palestinian voice is now going to go to the United Nations in a few months and ask the UN General Assembly to recognize Palestine as a member of the General Assembly. In other words, to recognize it as a legitimate state in the world. This is going to have to then come up before the Security Council. Now, what I think the Americans are scared about is they do not want that vote to look like 183 for the Palestinians, 2 against, that is Israel and the United States, and a few abstentions from Samoa and other countries. They don't want that to be the character of this vote. It will look as if this is a referendum on the Arab Spring and the United States has voted against it. So in the speech that Obama gave, he was trying, in my view, to sideline the Palestinian dynamic by making the issue about the 1967 borders and trying to change the terms of this dynamic that is taking place in Palestine. That's my sense of the speech, and I think this little disagreement between Obama and Netanyahu is an important disagreement, but it's not actually significant, because if we focus on their disagreement, we have actually fallen into exactly what they wanted, which is to shift the dynamic from that has been taking place in Palestine, the unity between Fatah and Hamas, the non-violent demonstrations that have been beginning, and the attempt to come to the UN General Assembly to declare Palestinian statehood. So if Obama has had any objective, it seems to me it was to break that dynamic and to start another conversation, and I don't think one should permit the conversation to shift.
So this is basically more a shift of discourse than a real change in views. Thanks, Vijay.